Welcome or welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion, the podcast for blind people, where we speak about critical issues in the blindness community and all other issues from across the universe and galaxy. Today, this morning, afternoon, evening, we are joined by someone who is very enthusiastic, very interested, and a very interesting person. Michelle Benczkowski joins us today, the creator of, well, many things, but for one, eleVIVO, which is a new up-and-coming platform that people around the blindness community should definitely be knowing about. You've also done a lot in your life. You've lived all over the place. You studied equestrian studies. You're multilingual. You have a lot of interests, and you have a great personality. I'm going to mute my microphone and ask the question I always ask and let you answer it. Who is Michelle Benczkowski? Your whole life story, everything you want me to know about your company, all your projects. Go.
Oh my, that's a lot. Okay, I'm actually going to start with eleVIVO. eleVIVO is actually not mine. I have taken a lot of ownership in it, to be honest. The founder of eleVIVO was a lady by the name of Gail Pollock, and she is a retired Surgeon General of the Army. And she is someone I highly recommend that you interview because she is all that and a bag of chips. Probably the most fascinating person I know. My journey with eleVIVO started as a horseback riding instructor. I was General Pollock's horseback riding instructor. I was running a very large program in Maryland called Full Moon Farm. I was the head instructor. I was teaching between 100 and 200 kids a week. And Gail was one of my kids. I had kids of all ages from toddlers up through, I think my oldest student ever was 86. And they're all my kids. So Gail and I had been working together for a couple of years, and she pulled me aside one day and said, "Do you think you could do research?" And I looked at her and I said, "Sure, I'll give it a whirl. Why not?" So she talked to me about eleVIVO and the story of eleVIVO. And that is her story to tell, so I will leave that for her someday. But she told me the story of eleVIVO and asked me to start to find resources for people who are struggling with vision loss to be able to move forward and to get into the pipeline and to thrive instead of just merely surviving day to day. So that was kind of the impetus. So I started researching and teaching myself how to do that and creating a database. And now I have developed since 2018 a database of over 1 million data points and over 30,000 organizations that help the low vision community doing different things in all 50 states and the territories of the U.S. So in doing that, I learned that a lot of things are not accessible. Even as a sighted person looking for resources, it was hard to find stuff. I had to dig, and a lot of the great organizations, you go in and you look at them and you can't find contact information. They say they do this and this and this and this, and good luck contacting them. So what I did was I created this huge database, and we put together a platform, and I was very involved with creating the program that is eleVIVO. And what it does is it creates two different lanes, really. It provides static information on how to make your home safer, how tips for at work so that you can keep the job you've got. It provides information on different types of low vision professionals. Who are these people and what in the world do they do? Then it provides contact information for lots of different organizations that provide information and training and connections with other people so that you can learn the skills that can make you thrive in your world. Thrive to be who you want to be, not who I want you to be or anybody else. You are you, and you need to be able to do what you want to do and follow your dreams. And all the information is local. You plug in your zip code and your age and your diagnosis and your veteran status, because since Gail is a retired 2-star general, the veteran community is incredibly important to her. So you plug in your information, and what it does is it appears on your screen as boxes of different types of actionable small bits of information. The small bits of information are important because you can't do all of it today or in the next hour. You'll just overwhelm yourself. You'll go in a corner and curl up in a ball. So this gives you little bits and pieces so that, oh, I did this. Oh, I can do this. Okay, let's try this. Oh, hey, that worked. Now let's contact these people. Oh, I can do this. And by doing that, it builds confidence. You can build connections. You can make yourself safer. People who have vision impairment are much more likely to fall. And to prevent people from falling is huge, especially as we get older. Macular degeneration is becoming a huge issue because the baby boomers are all getting older now. So to get orientation and mobility training is really important to be able to move around safely. A lot of people who are vision impaired can't drive. So how do you get around? We have access to local transportation options. And we also have information about really an interesting thing that I learned about not that long ago is biopic driving, where people with certain forms of vision loss can actually still drive. So you can learn if you're eligible for that. The most important one that I think is in the entire platform is contacts with low vision optometrists that are local, because those are the people that get you the technology you need to be able to do what you want to do. They're the ones who are able to get you in contact with the professionals that can help you. They're a huge first step. It also, something we're really proud of is we put together, our programmers put together this program where it goes into the NIH database of studies. And if any of you have ever wandered around in there, it looks like a rabid raccoon had a party. It's a mess. So what it does is it sorts through and finds open studies for your disease that are nearby to you that you might be able to participate in. And for those of us who are losing our vision, that may be something that saves our vision or helps the next generation to save their vision. So it's all really important stuff. So as you can hear, I'm really enthusiastic about it. It's really been fun to do. Now, the latest project that I'm involved in that I'm teaching myself how to do is a YouTube channel. We do a series called Thriving with Vision Loss. And it's all about people who have gone through what people have to go through to get out the other side. They're thriving, and there's so many interesting people. I've met so many cool people who have actually become my friends. I've met a blind hockey player. I've met a guy who's a blind comic. He's funny as all heck. He makes me smile. I've met a fellow who's involved with the Blind Enterprise program, and he's raising an autistic son by himself. That dude's amazing. His name's Reynolds, and he actually has a YouTube channel called Angry Asian Uncles, which if you have a chance to check in that is hilarious. They are funny. I have one of my best friends is now a fellow that he does the Blind Striker YouTube channel, Scotty Joffrey, and he actually helps me with my accessibility. He watches every single thing I do, and he looks at it through the eye of an accessibility trainer to say, okay, that stinks. Do it over. You need to fix this. Or, I can't read that. What are you doing? Try again. And that way, not only has he gone through the eleVIVO platform, but he also goes through all my videos to make sure that everyone can watch them. Everyone can benefit from them. So that's really cool. Now, the next bit, we'll go back now to who I really am underneath it all. I am a jack of all trades, master of none, as my husband would say. As a kid, I was a good student. My dad was an interesting fellow. He, how shall I put this? He owned a bar, and was a bookie. He was an interesting fellow. He was very charismatic. He wasn't very educated, but he was one of the brightest people I've ever known. He and my grandfather was also a bookie. They taught me how to figure odds in my head mathematically. They were mathematical geniuses. Dad had a ton of charisma. My grandfather was a little bit of a tough nut. Um, and I was mostly, in a lot of ways, raised by my horseback riding instructor. Her name is Barbara Johnson, and I actually wrote a book about her. It's the stories of other people mostly. It's her story told through the eyes of all the young women that she influenced. I had some issues when I was young with bullying and some other things, and I was not in a good headspace for a very long time. Um, and she's the one who gave me a reason to move forward when I didn't really have one of my own. So she was an amazing, amazing influence on my life. So the book is called Practically Impractical. Um, the story of Barbara Johnson and the lives she touched. And I collected stories from all the students that I knew, plus a lot of the ones that I didn't know that were connected through the whole web of us, and had them tell their stories of her. And she was quirky, she was funny, she was intelligent, she was tough as nails. She scared a lot of people, actually. But when she passed away during the pandemic, I felt the need to write her story so that nobody would forget her. So anyway, so that's available on lulu.com if you want to have a look at that. It's fun. I think on the screen, the computer version, I think it's like $1. Because I didn't want to make money. I just wanted to tell her story. Anyway, moving forward, my mom was probably the reason I have my attention to detail. She was very detail oriented as a child, and she supported me through all of this. Although both my parents thought I was crazy to become a horseback riding instructor because I was an excellent student. I could have been a doctor, could have been a lawyer, any of that, and I chose not to. I went to a small college in Danville, Virginia called Averett College, which is now Averett University, and double majored in equestrian studies and business administration. With my minor was French because, well, I liked it. So I had, back when I was a kid, I was also kind of going back again because I'm ADD as all heck. Going back again, I had an interaction with the Hartford Whalers pro hockey team. I was actually one of the Noise Time girls, which our job was to go around with these huge signs through the crowd, during the hockey games and, get everybody going or whatever. But our real job was to talk to the fans. Our mission for Mr. Gordon, the owner of the Whalers, was he wanted to find out what the fans really thought. So we went and my job was to talk to people, which was really fun. And I got to know the players. I got to know Gordie Howe, who was an absolute hoot. There were some pretty sketchy stories that I could tell about that, but I don't think I'm going to tell them today. But anyway, I got to know them. I got to skate with them. It was so much fun. I loved it. So I am a hockey nut, also. Anyway, moving forward through horseback riding, going back again with my ADD self. With the horseback riding, I rode with Mrs. J until college. And then I ended up going to Averett University. I had already been teaching for 7 years, before I went to college. I started at 13. And Mrs. J said, "You're teaching today." And I looked at her and said, "What? What are you smoking, lady?" No. And she said, "Yes, you are. And go." And she made me teach a lesson. And then she grilled me. What did you do right? What did you do wrong? What did this person do, do well? What did they do poorly? Now, which horse are you going to put them on next week? And what are you going to work on? And made me plan it out. By the time I was 14, I was teaching about 80 people a week in addition to school. So I was doing a lot in barn work and mucking stalls and everything else. But I was teaching a lot. And she would sit herself up on the hill, and after every lesson, she would grill me. And if I had back-to-back lessons, she'd wait until the end of the day and then grill me. So I learned how to teach that way. And I could never thank her enough for that. But when I went to college, I already knew how to teach, and it was just a lot of the veterinary stuff that I learned and a lot of the different things that just weren't part of my job when I was working with Mrs. J. So I learned, nutrition, exercise physiology, all that fun stuff. And Melanie Worth was the director of our program, and she was a rock star too. Very tough woman. You had to know how to take her. But she was fantastic. She set it up so that I could work for Hubert Rohrer. Hubert Rohrer was the youngest graduate ever from the Spanish riding school in Vienna. Hubert was a card. Hubert was hilarious. He was 6'4" with a handlebar mustache and an ego that could topple small nations. I loved him. When we were, we had his clinic at the school farm, Hubert he was so funny. He had me ride, and I could only afford really one lesson per day because he was $100 a lesson. He was really expensive at that time. This was in the early 90s, and I was a poor college student. So I rode one lesson, and afterwards, after the lesson was over, he said, "Then you ride again." And I said, "I don't ride again," because I was also the intern, aka barn slave, so I had a lot of work to do. I'm like, I got work to do, and you're too expensive. He says, "No, no, no. On me, you ride." He said, and he called out to Melanie. He's like, "Melanie, get her a horse." I rode 4 times that day. Then at the end of the day, he said, "So you go to dinner with Melanie and me." I said, "No, I don't go to dinner with Melanie and you because I got work to do because you kept me busy all day." He said, "Oh." So he wandered off with Melanie, and I finished my work, got back to the barn at the crack of dawn again. And he said, "So, when you off school for the year?" I'm like, April. So he said, "Okay." He said, "You come to work for me." I said, "No, I don't come to work for you. I already got the job." And he said, "No, no, no, you don't understand. Melanie traded you." I'm like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, she sold you." I'm like, what, you got to tell me more about this. I'm like, this isn't right. He said, "No, no, I traded her a truck and trailer for you. You come to work for me." I'm like, oh God. So I ended up in Palm Beach with him. He was dating Jeanette Sassoon, who's Vidal's ex-wife, the advertising exec that took him forever to get his worth. Beautiful farm, multi-million-dollar horses. Got lessons from Hubert. At the end of the first week, he said, I had a couple days off, and my husband, my now husband, had come to visit me. So we were going to go down to Key West. So we went down to Key West and came back, and he was mad at me because his bougainvillea bushes died. He said, "Why didn't you water my bougainvilleas?" I'm like, "Was not my fault. I was not here to water your bougainvilleas. The other working student was supposed to." And he was yelling at me and chewing me out. And I looked at him and said, "Hubert, just shut up." And he's like, "I like you. You got spunk." It's like, "You're one of Melanie's kids." I forgot. She's much meaner, nastier, and uglier than I could ever be. So, moving right along, went from 1 lesson a day to 2 lessons a day. Then we moved on again, and he grabbed my rear end, and I decked him. And he looked at me and says, "Oh, I like you so much. You got spunk." I was now riding 3 horses a day, and he never touched me again or messed with me again. He was so much fun. So anyway, so then moving right along, finished my senior year of college. I was in a really bad car accident, that destroyed both of my ankles. I had a compound dislocation on one and blew up the talus bone on the other and broke a collarbone. So I was in a wheelchair for 4 months, which taught me a lot about accessibility. When my eyes didn't go above the counter, it was a problem. I mean, they let me alone in the house, which was a big mistake, and I might have jumped down out of the wheelchair, butt scooted my way across the living room, out the door, down the steps, and I was going to the store. My roommate and the best man in our wedding, who has cerebral palsy, almost hit me with his car. Got out of his car and yelled at me. It told me to get my little hiney back into the house. So, yeah, I got in a lot of trouble for that one. But, after my cast came off and 4 months in a wheelchair, I started riding again and I graduated on time. It was really difficult. Again, accessibility became an issue because I couldn't finish my French minor. I had one class to go and the class was on the third floor of a building with no elevator. And I was still in a wheelchair at that point. That was a problem. So at that point, I just didn't have it in me to fight it and I just dropped the minor. But I did graduate on time. I was in walking casts when I graduated and on crutches, but I got to the end of the stage. I gave them my crutches and said, no, gave my now husband my crutches and I walked across the stage because darn it, I was going to do that because I am pig-headed and stubborn parts 1, 2, and 3. Don't tell me no and I can't do something because I get angry and then I do it no matter what. Moving along with the ankles, they told me I'd never walk without a limp again. I'd never ride again. I'd never run again. I was riding in walking casts. I was not very compliant. I did everything that they said I wasn't going to do. And I still do. This is decades later and they said I'd be in a wheelchair and nope, too bad. So sad. I can walk 10,000 steps a day. So, I went through that. And Michael and I got married in, 1995. Oh God, that's a long time ago. We just celebrated our 30th anniversary and he's been my partner in crime since then. We get in lots of trouble. And it's been great fun. No children other than dogs. I like fur. Some people should not be allowed to have children because, you can't crate train children. They frown on that. So no children for me. And then let's see, going forward, I worked in a couple different barns. I ran the program at Full Moon Farm for 20 years. I coached teams, got to meet a ton of amazing young women. If anybody tells you this upcoming generation is not good, they have no idea. They are amazing. They are unbelievable. They're smart. They're really tuned into accessibility and stuff like that, just instinctively. It's really wild. When I started doing the eleVIVO thing, a lot of my teenagers were incredibly interested in it and actually gave me some technical help and stuff with my database because, I didn't know what I was doing. So it was really, really cool. So if anybody tells you this next generation is worthless, they're lying. They're amazing, just like the generation before was amazing, just like the Gen X was amazing, just like the generation before that was amazing. Just the older generation doesn't understand them. And that's been that way probably since the dawn of time. So anyway, other interests. I did the horseback riding thing. And then during the pandemic, I have a genetic disorder that makes my immune system very bad. And during the pandemic, especially before vaccines were available, I didn't want to be around all the little germ factories because it could have killed me. So I retired from teaching and went to doing the eleVIVO thing full time. Before that, I was doing about 20 hours a week, getting stuff together. And then other things that I do promotion for a band. They're a bunch of 20-somethings. They're the sweetest kids ever. I saw them on the stadium tour with, Def Leppard, Motley Crue, Poison, and Joan Jett. I am a music person like you wouldn't believe. I love music. I can't play it. I can't carry a tune in a bucket, but I don't care. I love music. So I heard these kids and they blew me away. So I got involved with one of the fan groups and just by chance met the drummer's mom. And she's now my best friend. She's in California. I'm in Maryland and it's a pain in the butt because there's a 3-hour time difference. Luckily, she's an early riser, so it's not as big of a deal as it could be, but I'm very involved with promoting them. I put together a Facebook group, of about 100 people that spread the news on social media. I've become really good friends with the band. They're like my kids. They actually stayed with me for a week. I got the phone call Is that offer to stay with you still available? Yeah. So could we stay with you? Yeah. So how many are coming? 6. Okay. I have a little house, but we made it work. Like, how long you staying? Could we stay for a week? Sure. So I had 6 20-somethings in my house for a week, and I flew my best friend in so she could watch her son play on the other coast. And we all stayed in my travel trailer, which is something else I do. I travel. I love traveling. I love different people, different cultures, different everything. I love it. So me and my husband and my best friend and the dogs all stayed out in the travel trailer and let the boys and Oda, their tour manager, who happens to be the lead singer's girlfriend, have the house. And they were the best house guests ever. They were sweet. They were kind. They cleaned up. They wouldn't let me do dishes. They can eat. They're like a bunch of locusts. I mean, we're talking, Oda and I made, I think 18 dozen pierogies, and I think they ate 9 dozen at one sitting. It was, and my husband made 2 big lasagnas, and they plowed through those too. It was pretty funny. So anyway, so I love their music and I promote them every chance I get. And if you listen to my YouTube channel, at the very end of the videos, every single one, there's a piece of one of their songs. And the words are kind of tie back into eleVIVO, which is, so make it happen, put down your map and make your way to happiness. And that ties in so well with the eleVIVO goal of thrive. We want people to thrive. You know, we want this to go forward. The accessibility stuff, it's, you know, we're trying to raise the voices of the visually impaired community. The stories aren't mine. They're theirs. They're their own personal stories, their own personal journeys, and everyone can see that. It's really, really, you know, fantastic. Other thing that I do that I'm trying to get my best friend on the East Coast is a blind man who's in a wheelchair. And I'm trying to get him walking well enough so that I could take him out on my sailboat, because that's the other thing. I sail too. That's my other big passion, is I like to sail. And, you know, if anybody's in the Baltimore, Washington area and you want to try sailing, I'll take you out. It's big fun. So anyway, so that's kind of the whole up and down. You know, the biggest thing that, you know, I wanted to be on here for is the eleVIVO thing. You know, it's so important for us to help people thrive. It's so huge because in our society, you know, there's so much defunding going on of social programs. And it's important to support those programs. You know, there's so much out there, you know, in our society. You know, like I said before, blind people have a higher fall risk. There's no reason that the visually impaired of working age can't work. They need the training and they need the, you know, the accommodations to help that. But to tell you the truth, the top 3 people that I know intelligence wise, none of them can see. It's pretty amazing. It's just absolutely, you know, stunning as a sighted person, you know, that these people, as I meet them, are the most incredible, vibrant humans I've met. So it's important for us as a sighted community and a blind community and a low vision community to all work together to make it so that we can elevate lives and have people do what they want to do. It's important for everyone. And we want to prevent the isolation of low vision. We want to join together as a community. And that's kind of who I am and what I do. You know, I'm kind of ADD is crud and bat crap crazy. So how's that?
That's excellent. You know, everything you said really spoke to me today. You know, to kind of retrace the steps. So my interesting that you, so believe it or not, I actually grew up in Maryland. Um, now I'm somewhere else, but I did grow up in Maryland, and it was all very interesting to me. I've done horseback riding, I've done sailing. I prefer sailing, by the way. So I certainly have sailed on the Chesapeake Bay, which, in case people don't know, nothing is better than the Chesapeake Bay for sailing. That's a lot of fun. Sailing.
Agreed.
The thing about sailing is it's a lot of fun, and you learn each time you do it. So it's sort of both a taxing activity and both a relaxing activity and an odd activity. It's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. The best thing about it is the technology goes away.
Yeah.
It's you, the boat, the water, and your crew. That's it.
And the wind.
Everything else.
And nature and the wind. Absolutely.
And that's it. You all those other things fall away.
Yeah, it really is. It was a lot of fun for me when I lived there. My father would go out with me, and we would sail and things like that. That's a lot of fun. The other cool thing you said is, yes, I know what the Hartford Whalers was. My father's side of the family is actually from that part of the country. They were also from Connecticut, like you. I recall that my paternal grandfather was a Whalers fan, and he had the jacket. He had the bright green jacket, with the blue trim and all that.
I've got one sitting in my closet.
Oh, you still have it? Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's so good. You should definitely keep it. Definitely.
Well, the thing is, I actually don't have mine. Mine died an ignominious death because I wore it too much. But I've got my dad's.
That's even cooler, even better, even more touching. Yes, and yes, I knew who Gordie Howe is when you said that name. Yeah, absolutely. For the listeners who are not hockey fans, the Hartford Whalers was a famous team in the 1970s, 80s, and things like that. And they would eventually move to Carolina, I believe, and become the Hurricanes of now, I guess. But yeah, and I used to be a big Capitals fan when I lived there near DC as well. I can certainly give you more background as we talk off air, a little bit more details. I'm very familiar with Maryland and things like that. Yeah. And, the fact that you studied something that interested you, I wished that I had studied something that had interested me. I didn't. I wished I had. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people when they're in university have a really hard time figuring out what they really want to do, because if you're only 18, you don't know what you want to do. So you try to study things that you're interested in,
I was lucky.
Yes.
Because, I mean, this has been my dream when I was a kid was to be in the Olympics. But Mrs. J always said, you're not going to be my Olympic kid. You're going to be my teacher. You're going to be mini me. And she was right. She was always right. Hated that.
Right. Absolutely. So did you want to be in the Olympics for the equestrian team or what? So,
I did.
Right. Yeah.
I did. That was the dream. And it was, I still had that dream when I was in college, but when I broke my ankles, I kind of took a big sigh and said, she was right all along, like usual.
Yeah. Well, most people don't get to be in the Olympics. So it's nothing. I mean, it's understandable.
Although
if you still
I
have
have a
hard
former
feelings about it.
student that is very likely to eventually be in the Olympics.
That's really good. It's really, really
her name
good.
is Wooch Fulton. And I taught her from, when she was 5 up until she went away to Buck Davidson, who was one of our Olympians, to work for him. And now she runs her own business, but she'll end up in the Olympics probably someday.
That's really interesting. Really, really fascinating. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. And then you get into this horrific accident and you end up in a wheelchair. I mean, I'm sorry that happened, but that's also really interesting. That's a really, that provided you with a really interesting insight and perspective on disability. And I was wondering, considering that you're a sighted person, I was wondering what made you so interested in and aware of disability in the first place. And that's how, that accident where you broke your ankles. Yeah, that's really, really horrific and really interesting. Yes.
Yeah, that was a big piece of it. But when my dad owned the bar, I mean, there were several guys that used to come in that were, blind. And, I got to know them as a kid. And that affected me too, because these were guys who didn't have families and didn't have hope. And it broke my heart. And I remember they used to light up. I was like a little kid, like, 7, 8, 9 years old. And I'd go sit next to them at the bar and just talk about life.
Yeah.
And it lit them up like firecrackers. And they were cool guys with really cool stories. And I love people's stories.
Right, right. And so was this a bar in Connecticut somewhere?
Yeah, it was a small bar in Portland, Connecticut called Cafe 66.
All
It
right.
is no longer there. Dad sold it when he decided he was going to retire. And then he developed pancreatic cancer and he passed in 2023.
Oh la la.
So but he was a character. I mean, he
Yeah.
was one of a kind.
You sounds like, you would have to be a character to own a bar and to, to be in that business. You meet a lot of characters
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a
So
little like him.
what decades, now, what decades were, if you don't, since I'm aging you, if you don't mind that.
It's okay. I'm 53.
Okay.
Okay. There, we got that over with.
Okay. So, well, good. Good. It's over with. So when you were 7, 8, and 9, like what decade was that? Like when you
That
were,
would have been like late 80s or yeah, I'm sorry, late 70s, early 80s.
yeah, yeah.
I'm talking.
The reason
This
I'm
is,
asking, so the
yeah,
reason I'm making a point to say it is because that was a time period, to help fill it in for the listener. The upper 70s and early 80s were a time where even still blind people were not fully working, even in those days. So
yeah,
probably, whether you understood it at the time, the people that you were interacting with as a girl at the bar were probably people who were either underemployed or unemployed. So they were
yes.
probably very touched and probably very comforted, to be able to speak to someone who was younger, and they probably did want to, influence you in the right way, and, make a good impression, because very few people would have listened to them, these other blind people back then. So that's a really fascinating thing. Yeah.
People like to talk to other people. People like to tell their story.
Do you remember any of the stories you heard in the bar as a girl?
I remember a lot of them. Let's see if I can think of one that's suitable for this.
By the way, this podcast is explicit, marked for adults only. So anything
Okay.
you're comfortable sharing, you can share whatever is in your heart, whatever you want to say, by the way.
So I had one friend. This was not in the bar. This was one of my dad's best friends. He was a Secret Service agent. He was not blind. He was a Secret Service agent. He was an African American, and he was a dog trainer. And I met up with him in college again, and he took me to the wall when the wall first, yeah, the Vietnam Memorial when it first came up. And we sat and we finished off a bottle of Jack Daniels and he told stories about his friends and about what happened. And it ties into the blindness community because a lot of those people who came out of there didn't get the support they needed. There's so many with PTSD, with, a lot of the chemicals that they used in Vietnam, blinded people. They caused so many issues, and that comes through to the soldiers today. Soldiers today, when I'll tell a little piece of General Pollock's story. I want to leave a lot of that for her. But a little piece of General Pollock's story is when she was learning to give congressional testimony. Senator Inouye from Hawaii asked the other surgeons general, "What are you doing for the blinded troopers?" And they said, "Oh, it's fine." And she says he recoiled like he was slapped in the face. And he just said, "Oh, really?" And she went back to her office and had her data guys crunch some numbers, and for, soldiers and veterans with vision issues are 10 times more likely to commit suicide than any other disability. Period. PTSD, amputees, none of it. Because they fear the stigma of blindness, that whole, if your eyes don't work, your brain doesn't work, which is so untrue. And they also fear having to be dependent on people. They don't realize that they can be independent, that it is possible. And that's a huge driver in what eleVIVO does.
Yeah, yeah. Have you listened to other episodes of Aaron's Opinion?
Yes.
Did you listen to my conversation with Zach Tidwell?
I missed that one.
Okay.
Please tell me. I want to know.
Okay. When you hear it, when you play it, you'll understand why I hesitate.
Give me the rated G
The problem, the
book
issue
cliff notes.
is Zach is a wonderful friend to all of us in the disability community. He's an incredible human being. Um, there's nothing rated G about it. That's the only problem.
I can listen to it if you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
I'll go listen to
it's
it.
not that I'm nervous about talking about it. It's just I don't want to get quite that dark. I'll give you a teaser. Zach joined, I think Zach, so I'm 34. Wait, 91, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I'm 34. And Zach, I'm guessing, is around 38 or 39. He's a little bit older than me. He joined the Marines. That should be a clue. Fairly recently, in the mid 2000s. And he got out of the Marine Corps and, something happened. And it goes back to what you were saying about PTSD. So you should definitely know who that person is and definitely listen to that particular episode.
That'll be the first thing I do when I get off this interview.
It's a pretty, it's a wonderful conversation. I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. It's deeply concerning, the whole and I mean that respectfully. Zach does a great job in conveying his knowledge, his story, and his journey, but it's still a very serious conversation. So if you're not in the headspace to hear something really negative, there you go. At any rate, you're very right. This is a huge issue. Blind veterans. First of all, let's back up. Veterans are simply more than likely not getting the support they deserve. And that's an understatement. Blind veterans, certainly not. And you're absolutely right. PTSD is a huge issue that is simply not being addressed. But I've spoken to several people. Zach Tidwell's conversation is the one that stands out the most, but I've spoken to several other people about this. So you're very, very right. That's a huge thing. Yeah.
It's, I'm a bit of an empath, and other people's pain hurts me physically. It really does. I can put a wall up to keep it away a little bit, but late at night, it hits me really hard. I was just doing an interview with a fellow. I haven't put it up yet. His name is Clint Aiken, and it's a really powerful interview. As I was editing it, I was crying just for him, and he's come out the other side, and he's become a huge force for good in the world. But the journey to get there really hurt. And he's become a friend. He really has. And it's, and I admire him to the soles of my shoes, and it's one of those things that, it's so hard as an interviewer to do. I'm sure, how did that affect you?
Are you asking how
No, like when you have to do one of those interviews that is so powerful, and it's a story that needs to be heard, and yet it's so painful.
Absolutely. Well, what I tell people is, I preface, and you'll hear me preface a lot of times, I always give trigger warnings in my intros. I always warn people before the episode goes R. I'm really careful about that. For one, I also make a point in saying and telling that I will never interview someone based solely upon glory or glorification or dramatization. In other words, you can have guests that have had very dramatic and how do I put it? You can interview people that have had really crazy lives. I've interviewed somebody pretty recently who was actually convicted of armed robbery and actually served time in prison, right? Now he's turned his life around. But, when you hear some of these conversations, you're like, wow, some people have, for a variety of reasons and choices and reasons, have made really, really different choices in life. Or you think some of these people have had just a different experience in life, But I never glorify those things. And it's important to say that I never glorify having those crazy conversations, which is why I also like having cheerful, upbeat, positive, and serious conversations when I can, because yes, some of these conversations that I've had to have on Aaron's Opinion, are riveting with sadness and riveting with importance, every guest is important. Every interview is the most important one because it's not about Aaron's opinion. It's about Michelle. And that's something that I've believed since 2020, since I got into podcasting, that I need, for a variety of reasons. I'm someone who's faced an enormous amount of discrimination, and I need to pave the way forward for other people to be able to share their knowledge. And that's really why I'm doing it, because it's helpful to me to help you. In other words, I feel better when I help other people. And that's really why I want to be a podcaster and why I've been doing this for all these years. Outside of my teaching work and everything else that I do, I try to make the right impression when it's hard to make the right impression. And that's the hardest impression to make. The hardest thing is doing the right thing, even when it's really hard. And a lot of people tell me, well, this is really hard, or I've had a really hard life. And I tell people, yeah, you're right. You have. And so have all of us. Life is not easy for anybody. It's just everybody has a different life experience. So yeah, when you come up to people like that to do those, graphic interviews, you have to, I would say just make a point of saying, that you don't glorify it, you don't celebrate the drama, but the point of sharing it is to share, really it's about where are they now, and saying, okay, this is the life journey. You made these choices in the past. Now you were there. Now you're here, and here's where you will go. The name, I've never interviewed Clint Aiken, but that name rings a bell. You've probably seen the name in the groups before.
He's very involved in the low vision group.
So I've probably seen the name. Is his middle initial a V for Victor by any chance?
I've
seen the name. I've heard of him. So if he's listening out there. Okay.
He's a really good guy.
Maybe you, Michelle, can help me to get in touch with him as well. So because I've heard of him. Now I know of him. Yeah, I've heard of a Clint V. Aiken. Yeah,
he's a great interview.
Yeah.
He really is. The other one that's a great interview, if you ever get a chance to talk to him, is Josh Schneider from U.S. Hockey.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he is hilarious. He's fun. He's intelligent. Neat dude. And I heard a rumor that you might be talking to Scott Joffrey at some point. And
we have made connect. Yeah, we're on Messenger. Yeah,
he's at the blind school now. He just started at the blind school.
Meaning, what do you mean? What do you mean?
I think he went to Hadley, but I can't. That's not for certain. But he actually is gone off to get more training because he wants to become he wants to become an educator also.
Oh, excellent! Really good.
So he's an amazing young man. He's one of the ones that gives you hope for the next generation. He really is. He's incredible. And he and I have become very good friends.
Well, that's super good. No, we'll definitely keep in touch about that. I have guests that I work with and get back to, and there's a whole circle. I have a circle of people that I interview, and then I come back to this person. Okay, are you ready? Are you ready? It's like it's like a big circle of knowledge and interviews.
Exactly.
So, yeah, absolutely.
And if there's ever anyone on any of my YouTube stuff that you would be interested in interviewing, just let me know and I'll get you in touch with them.
Well, by the way, I have to say that's very generous of you. Some people are less generous and share, or don't do as much sharing of guests. I accept that. I accept your offer. That's very kind.
The thing is, we're all on the same team.
That's what I think.
We're all about elevating lives and restoring hope. We're all about elevating the lives of the visually impaired and the voices of the visually impaired. And why don't we work together to do that? That boggles my imagination when people don't want to work together.
It's weird.
I am a collaborator, as is General Pollock. We're very collaborative. We're interested in working with people to make things better for people.
Right. Absolutely. Well, good. Well, then I'll definitely ask you for guests. Keep them coming. Keep telling me who to talk to, because I can never, as I tell people, I want more people, because the other truth about interviewing people is I'm not going to interview everybody. And it's just a reality. Not everybody comes to the show. Some people, you're both, you, Michelle, you're a fascinating person. You're a very different person. You have a very different personality, different experiences from mine, obviously, but you obviously enjoy doing this. This is fun for you and it's fun for me.
Oh, I love it.
But well, I'm glad. Thank you. But no, not everybody enjoys being on a podcast. And I have found that's a subtle thing that I need to keep in the back of my mind. Somebody might be a good guest, but not everybody is a perfect guest for every single podcast. It's a variety of things. So yes, absolutely. I need more guests than I will interview is what I'm saying. So keep feeding me information. But no, when you said that name, Clint Aiken, I was like, oh yeah, Clint V. Aiken. It's weird. It's weird too, because, when you're in the low vision and blindness community, It's like, you hear of people, you hear the names floating around. It's like, oh, who is that though? I've been hearing the name for years, Yeah.
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 So
Exactly.
yeah. And then,
Oh, there is something I forgot to talk about.
well, tell
I
me.
don't know why Clint brought that into my head. Again, I am actually probably undiagnosed ADD, but I'm an 80s kid. So I
Yeah.
just learned to cope with it and funnel it
Uh-huh.
usually.
Uh-huh.
But I tend to jump around like a gerbil on acid sometimes.
Well, that's
Um,
okay. By the way, I consider myself to be on the autism spectrum, the Asperger's
mhm,
spectrum too. So
mhm.
I totally get that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I know several people who are, and they're usually the brightest people I know.
Well, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I tend to think that, there is a spectrum, right? There's a spectrum where when you're on the spectrum, you have to realize where you are and you have to realize where you are on the spectrum.
Yeah.
For me, what it was that gave me the idea. Now I'm 34, but about 20 years ago, which to me sounds old, about 20 years ago, I was noticing that, or at least my parents were noticing when I was a teen, that I just wasn't, I had really weird interests.
Hmm.
And believe me when I tell you that I definitely want to talk to General Pollock.
Hmm.
That's a 1,000% yes.
She just
Um,
got back from Kenya, I think today, and you are on her list to talk to because she was very excited about me doing this.
okay, well, good. We'll catch up. We'll catch up
Hmm.
off here so that I can get the contact information of her, and so that I can appropriately get in touch. You can certainly give her my info too, and she is
Hmm.
more than welcome to reach out.
I
Um,
already have.
well, good. Well, she
My
can
little
reach out to
horns
me.
are coming up behind my headband. I'm a little demon.
Well, good. Well, you know what? I need little demons, positive, happy little demons like you, because
Yep, that's me.
these are the people that podcasters want, the people that are supportive and the people that never quit. Um, but
But
what I
anyway,
was, yes, go ahead.
the piece that I had forgotten about before I forget about it
Oh,
again,
sure.
is one of the things that eleVIVO wants to do. And this is something that, so right now we have two lanes. We have the individual lane, and then we also offer a way for organizations like Blind and Low Vision Services, state services, nonprofits to use us too for their membership. But for like our future, once we get enough money to pay the programmers, because programmers are expensive. Once we get enough money to pay the programmers to do the job, we want to do videos for basic O&M training, basic daily living skills training for people who can't get to a trainer right away to address the gap in time between when you're diagnosed and the optometrist takes away all your hope and says that there's nothing more we can do for you, and the point where you're in training for your daily living skills, O&M training, all of that, to address that gap by giving people an 80% solution where we do videos. Salish University actually loves what we're doing and has offered to do videos for us of, basic skills so that people could go in on their computer and get those basic skills so that they're safer before they can get into real training. It's not a substitute for training. It's, a bridge so that we can get people to do that and get it so that people at least have some empowerment to move forward while we're waiting. And that's kind of something that we want to do.
Yeah, really good. Really, really good. That's absolutely the right thing. So yeah, so I had a lot of issues as back kind of a little bit back to my story how I figured
Yeah.
out, I had a lot of issues as a teenager. My parents noticed that my interests were really weird and that I just wasn't like other people. And then over time we figured out, well, Aaron, you probably are on the Asperger's spectrum a little bit. Which, I'm just going to give an opinion. I have been noticing that a lot of other blind people actually share a lot of my same quirks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there is a vague or mild, or I'm stating an opinion, not a fact, but I think that there is a connection between blindness and being a little bit socially different and being a little bit on the Asperger's autism spectrum. I have noticed that there's a great connection between the two. So it
I
does
think
seem to be.
probably part of it, an opinion on my end, is probably part of it too, is when you're blind or low vision, it's hard to see visible cues and
Correct.
social cues, and it's hard to learn them because you can't see them. And I have a grandson who's autistic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have children, but I adopted one of my coworkers when I was working at the farm because his parents had passed away and his wife's parents had passed away, and he asked me to be grandmother to his children. And so I'm their honorary grandma. They call me Babki,
Mm-hmm.
which is Polish grandma, is what I call my grandmother. And he is autistic, and it's been difficult finding him the support he needs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, and I think it's getting really harder to for people on the autism spectrum to find it, gainful employment and independence, and it really does impact people. More than other people would realize it is a huge issue, and I don't mean issue in a negative sense. I mean that it is an issue that impacts people. It's a critical point.
Yes.
So, the other thing too with eleVIVO, back to that.
Hmm.
So you say that you found, over 30,000 different organizations that help people who are low vision or blind.
Yep.
So, wow. Now, now at this point, I'm curious. So, I mean, have you found, for instance, I consider myself to be an educator and podcaster, right? So have you found other organizations that are also doing podcasting? I mean, what if
Not
there's
really
30, if there's
podcasting.
30,000, if there's
That's great.
30,000, what other varieties of organizations?
So it
Yeah,
kind of I've actually gone a little bit further afield too with resources that are helpful too, that, you wouldn't think of as blind organizations, air quotes for those of you who can't see it,
sure.
but as things that can help, like transportation. That's a huge one because, I mean, it's expensive. I mean, Uber is not cheap. So, yeah, but there are a lot of free ones. Like, did you know that most senior centers or a large number of senior centers across the country offer, um, ride services and stuff, not just to the senior population, but to the disability community. And it's free. It's there. So I've got a lot of lists of that. Same thing for like a lot of the senior centers and stuff. They actually offer congregate meals and home delivered meals, not just for the senior community. You wouldn't know that until you knew it. That's there. There are actually sensory gardens and stuff around where you can go and touch,
Hmm.
and it's in Braille, there's like cards in Braille and stuff where you can go and touch things. There are other things like, let's see, I'm trying to think of some of the other fun stuff. I found, there's a lot of state stuff that they hide. I think because they don't want to spend the money. But like state things like, like a lot of the job training stuff, like a lot of the job, workplace evaluation stuff. There are not-for-profits out there that do different things. There's guide dog groups. There's blind sailing. There's blind golf. There's blind hockey. There's, blind horseback riding. There's actually a really cool lady I'm going to be interviewing from England. That is the head of a Facebook group that has members all over the world. And they do blind horseback riding, but with a twist. A lot of them are like trail riders. So like they go out on their horse. There are people who go out on their horse alone who are blind and low vision and go trail riding. It's like, whoa. It's like, that just boggles my imagination, but they do it. They're shooting. There's a veterans group in Maine that takes veterans up, like on moose hunts, and they use biopics and stuff, and they shoot moose. And they have a certain number of licenses per year that are set aside for them. Let's see, I'm trying to think of some of the other really fun ones. Let's see, there's a hiking group.
I was about to ask that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a hiking group that goes out. There's another person that I've been put in contact with, and I will put you in contact with if this works out, that does a YouTube channel, I believe, with outdoors stuff, doing outdoorsy type things for the low vision community. Team River Runner is another veterans organization. Have you heard of them?
I haven't, but I want to learn.
They do fly fishing.
Hmm.
They actually like do fly fishing. They go out and they do blind fly fishing and kayaking.
Hmm.
There's so many organizations out there that do that kind of stuff. And a lot of those little things are hidden in verbiage.
Hmm.
And one of the strengths of our database is what happens is you go into eleVIVO, and I'm actually going to give you a link for when you put this up for 6-month free memberships for your listeners if
Yeah,
they
what
want
does
to
that,
jump
by the way,
in.
what does that mean so yeah, I do remember you said 6 months free. Like, what does that mean exactly?
So basically what happens is you can sign up for 6 months, and at the end of 6 months, it'll ask you, do you want to become a paid member? But you have full access to all our resources for 6 months. You can do whatever you want. You can,
Hmm.
and any feedback that anybody could give me on how to make it better is great because again, this eleVIVO is a work in progress. We're growing, we're learning. I have all of my low vision friends go in and look at it. Like, what do you need to do? I had a fellow in the low vision group that I didn't realize it, but the programmers for the 6-month free membership, they didn't make that page accessible. So I called up the programmers. I'm like, yo, you need to fix this. And so they did. So anytime somebody finds something that's inaccessible, you know, we say, okay, well, let's make this better then. Let's fix it. And I get on the horn with the programmers and I say, okay, this is the feedback I've gotten. You need to fix this. And that's how we do this. Like I said, the first version of it was, before we ever even went public with it and live with it, it was a good starting point. It was important to do. It wasn't as helpful as it could be. So then it went into another iteration and we didn't let it go public even then. It's like, no, this is better, but this isn't good enough. And now we finally gotten to the point where, yes, this can really help people. Yes, this is and that doesn't mean that it can't be developed and moved forward and changed
Sure.
and, and added to. The biggest thing is I want to add to it because there's so many things that, as I talk to people, I'm like, wait a minute, we could do something about that. Or wait a minute, I have an entire file of stuff that I want for the future. And it's just a matter of getting people to use it enough to tell me this needs to be done. That needs to be done. We need to work together to make this a place where, in 5 years, when someone loses their vision, they have access to this immediately from their, even their ophthalmologist or AARP or, the blind low vision services where they could go in and pull up all these services and they don't have to start at square zero. They can start at square 10 or square 15, and move forward from it and develop it so that it makes it so that it's, being blind isn't that big of a deal. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I agree. And
You can
that's a
hear it in my
really
voice.
important
I'm
thing.
really passionate about it.
That's really good. No, that's what the community needs. We need these resources because the longer I've been podcasting and the more people I've connected with, the more I've also noticed how there are so many people who are completely and unnecessarily isolated from life.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I notice it every day in my own community where I live. There are blind people that I know that even to this day, they have trouble even sending an email, or they have trouble even sending a text,
Yeah.
or so there's obviously a very severe, one of the other things that you can study further and come to a greater understanding of is there's obviously a tremendous spectrum of opportunity that has been given to various people. In other words, some people are given a lot of opportunity. And the other problem is it seems like more and more people are not given opportunity at all.
Yeah.
And so what you end up with is a group of people, and I'm certainly not trying to say that it is this way because it's really not, but it's the only way that I can create an analogy. It just seems like we live in basically like a pyramid. In other words, there are some people with disabilities towards the top, but the further you go down the levels of the pyramid, you see more and more groups of people that face further and further social isolation. So
Yes.
as you work with eleVIVO, right, as you interview more people, this is something that I would say you should continue to learn from, learn about, and learn in the future. That social isolation really holds people back for generations. If they think they're isolated, then they're isolated. Whether they actually are or not. I grew up in rural Maryland. You probably can guess where it was. I don't say it on the podcast, but you can guess probably where I grew up. And so when I was a boy, I thought I was isolated, which I was. But as time went on, and as computers and technology grew over time, it became less and less critical where you lived. And that's one thing that I'll tell people. If you grew up in the country in the 70s or 80s, that was a big deal. But now with technology, now you can live anywhere and have a pretty good life if you want to. But if you think you're isolated and you think you can't, then you definitely cannot. And this is something that I would like to share with you, and I would like you to be knowledgeable about this, because this does impact people who are blind. A lot of them are isolated, and a lot of them can barely. You've done some really incredible stuff. A lot of them, never mind about the horse, never mind about the sailboat, the hike, the whalers, never mind, because they struggle enough just to send a text message. Not to downgrade them, obviously not to disregard your experiences, obviously not. But the fact is, if you can't even send a text message or an email, you're already basically permanently behind in our society.
Yes, I agree entirely. I actually had a really interesting interaction. My husband, mother-in-law, and I went camping in New Orleans. And we went on a tour of one of the big plantations, and I got talking to this really nice lady that was running the tour, and she said, "What do you do?" And I talked to her about eleVIVO, like we've been talking, and she said, "My best friend is blind, and she's afraid to leave the house. She's so isolated, And I said, "Well, wait a minute." I said, when I'm going to be home on this date, I'm going to send you an email. And I want to connect with you. I want to get with her. I want you to get with her. And we're going to do a call. We're going to talk. And I'm going to try to help her. So we did a personal thing. And this is something for anybody who's dealing with eleVIVO. I'm also going to give Erin my email address. I will personally deal with anybody who wants help. And I will personally help you if that's what you need. But anyway, I talked to this lady, and she didn't even know about how to use the iPhone, which is the biggest jump forward in technology for anybody. I mean, the accessibility features are amazing. So I walked her through setting up the accessibility stuff, and her friend was there with her, helping her with it. So we set it up so it was accessible to her and taught her how to use it. And within a month, she was out in the community again. She was going out to dinner. She actually went to her senior center and, got to go to the senior center. She, she actually got into O&M training and started doing that so she could actually leave her house. It was amazing all the things that door opened for her. And, it was just one door after the other, and it changed her life. And it was just a chance conversation that I had with the lady while I was on vacation. But it had a concrete effect on this woman's life. And it was, unfortunately, she passed away a few months ago. We lost her. She was older, and it was just, normal health issues from an older person. But she was the poster child for, you give them, if you can give someone a tool and learn, teach them to use it, it can help them to move forward. So that's kind of,
Yes. Or in other words, you taught her to fish for the rest of her life instead of catching the fish. Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's, and those are the most, the most impactful conversations, especially when you're on vacation, especially when you deal with tour guides. Those are great people. Yes, because a tour guide is somebody who's already interested in learning about other people. So tour guides know a lot. I tell students all the time, I teach English as a second language. I say, how do I learn English? I say, well, two great places to go, a bar and a taxi. Those are great places for you to practice your French if you're in France, or of course, if you're learning a second language. Go to a bar, go to a taxi. In a bar, everybody's so drunk they won't remember no matter how badly you speak. In a taxi, they'll always be able to give you knowledge about everything else. So those are two great points, but these are the people that you need to talk to the most. I would say the people to talk to are the people that you would never expect. The most unexpected people are the people that are the people. Those are the people you need to talk to. So if you ever think, I just have a feeling I should go talk to this person, you definitely should talk to them. And there's a lot to be learned from that, and a lot to be touched by.
Yeah, I'm the Labrador Retriever of people. I've never met a stranger.
Right.
So I tend to, and eleVIVO is such a passion for me that I will talk to everybody I come in contact with about what we do and about
wonderful.
the blindness community, because it's such a huge passion for me. That and music. I mean, those are the two things. Mm-hmm. And if you watch my video with Josh, which goes live on Thursday, a week from today, I am such a fangirl. I'm horrible. We had a really good time. It was a blast. And I was such a fangirl. It was hilarious. I was like, I was 12 again. So it was
anything that you can do that makes your life happier is almost always the right thing to do. And that's a lot of it too. If it helps you, if it makes you happier, do it. If you feel that you're, benefiting other people, and you certainly are, keep doing the right thing, because we need more ADD people like you to do the right thing. We don't have enough of you. There's not enough people that care as much as you and I do. And that's also a severe thing. There's a lot of people that only care 50%, mildly interested. How do I tell who to interview? I interview people who are 100,000% interested, and I could tell based on your interest, based on your interest level. That's how I can tell who to talk to, who's really ready, not who's sort of ready. And those are two different things,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it too is people get so caught up in their day-to-day lives.
Oh, sure.
Paying the mortgage, cleaning the house. Oh God, where are the kids? And just, I think as as a society, we've all gotten into our little compartments and have gotten, I guess, not willing to step out of it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Or not able to. When your mind is so full with survival, it's really hard to move out of that survival mode and into being a true part of society.
Absolutely.
I think that may be part of it too.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is why there are more people that listen to podcasts than become podcasters, because most people don't want to be a host and don't want to do this, actually. Yeah. I mean, there's thousands of people that want to be on the shows for sure, but there are more people that more people prefer to silently listen, which is great, but more people prefer to hide than come out, in a lot of ways.
You're right.
Yeah.
And being a podcaster is tough. I mean, I just started this. I mean, I think I've got 8 videos up now.
Yeah.
And I've done probably another 20 interviews in the last 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it takes me forever editing
and
making sure that everything's right and coming up with the questions to ask and all of that. And it takes forever. It's nuts. So I'm hoping to streamline things.
That's why not everybody does it. If it was easy, everybody would be at the top. So that's why it's hard, because it is hard. Of course it's hard, but you just have to keep doing it. I've been doing it for 5 years. I'm not going to stop. You just have to not stop. It's not a matter of,
if it's worth it, you should do it.
If you can tell that it's working, keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You have had a lot of different experiences. Absolutely. I do wonder, I do want to know, and I do wonder, what are some questions, that you have for me? Surely you have a lot of questions for Aaron Richmond and Aaron's opinion. So what do you really get under my skin, really make me sweat? What do you really want to ask me?
So process wise,
right.
First of all, this is a geek out question. Okay. This is a geek question. Process wise, from first saying, I want to interview that one. Or I might want to interview that one, to the finished video. how does that work for you? What's
Well,
your process?
I find people that are 100% ready. I find people that genuinely share my interests like you. I find people that genuinely want to be here. That's the first thing. You have to really want. Then we set up a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Also, is your podcast available on Apple, Spotify, all those places?
Not yet. That's
Because it
kind of the next
because it
step I have
needs
going in my head.
because here's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Your podcast needs to be available in audio format. Here's why. The type of person who listens to audio and the type of person who watches a YouTube video are two different people. It's not the same. So typically the stereotype about podcast listeners is that they're more educated is one thing. So if you're speaking about, so if you're really trying to get out the right message, yes, you can go very far on YouTube and keep doing it. But what I'm telling you is there is a huge portion of the audience that you are leaving out by not having audio content. So that's like really important. All you need to do really is whatever platform you're using to record, just simply pull the audio and create a podcast episode out of that, input it into whatever RSS feed you want to use. I can certainly recommend one to you that's really easy and does everything you need it to. But you definitely need to have a presence on all the main platforms, and then you need to, obviously, the other trick is you have to acquire ratings and reviews, just like any other product. You have to move up in the empire. But for me, it's about finding the right people, finding people that care. And then I sit down and interview them. And then I, do my intros, outros. And I have a list of episodes that I'm working on or producing like you, and people get produced. And then it gets into the end product of this is you'll get a YouTube video and a Apple Podcast link. And then you share that around your socials. You share that around your community, and that's how you eventually build up authority. But it does take years. Especially right now, considering that the market is completely drowned in information. You just have to keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I was very excited. My last video actually had double the views of any first week video I've had. And
that's good.
It actually ended up with more videos. It's a week old and it's got more views than any of my other videos. Total.
Oh, well, that's a clue.
And I've more than doubled my subscribers in the last week. So it's like,
well, that's good.
Okay, that means I'm doing something right.
You just have to not take it personally and keep doing it is what you need to do.
As a riding instructor, I don't take anything personally because when you're teaching riding, you have basically I would say half my students absolutely love me. I would say another probably 40% were okay. I was okay. I was fine. And then there was a 10% that were going to hate my guts no matter what I did.
Oh, sure.
It didn't matter. And when I was young, I really took that to heart. And I mean, I would cry about it at night. I was so upset because I'm a people pleaser. I like people. I want people to be happy. And sometimes I had to be pretty hard on people because it was their safety. My priorities had to be safety of them, safety of the horse because they don't have a choice, safety of the rider, and then teach them something and then make them like me. Right. And about 10% hated my guts. And I had to be okay with that. Absolutely. To survive as long as I did and not just jump off a bridge somewhere.
Absolutely.
So I can take rejection. I mean, I have a thing that I always say that, what can they say? No? Okay. If I'm not your cup of tea, I'm not your cup of tea. Not a problem.
Yeah.
There's somebody out there that is.
Well, good. I would say strap yourself in, prepare for takeoff, because the longer you stay in the podcast space, you will receive a very wide range of response. Everybody will love you or hate you, but there's no real middle. You're going to notice the longer you produce stuff, there's either it's good or bad. There's no middle.
That's okay.
Keep doing it. Well, good attitude. Keep doing it then. Well, fine.
I am who I am, and I haven't changed yet. So
why bother changing, right? If you can never change, don't change.
I've grown. I have grown as a person, but I haven't changed who I am at the heart. And I'm
Good.
always going to be that person. And if they don't like it, sorry, too bad, so sad.
Right. Right.
You know,
Yes.
go
I,
find somebody you love.
like I was saying before, our lives are totally different. We're
Mhm.
very, very, very rapidly, very different people, obviously, but I
Mhm.
totally get what you're saying. Like your attitude is the
Mhm.
right one. And that's my attitude too. So we're definitely on the same page. Absolutely. Yeah.
I
Really
mean,
cool
the
stuff.
only time I get upset and angry
Yeah.
is if somebody messes with somebody else. I don't like bullies. I get really
You know
cranky.
what? You know what I've learned about that? I've
Mhm.
learned that part of being successful is overcoming bullies.
Mhm.
And I've dealt with it. And all through my life, I've dealt with it.
Mhm.
And it's also said that, and I have two comments to make about harassment, bothering, bullying, negative people.
Mhm.
You'll find an ironic thing occurs. The longer you produce YouTube videos, the more you podcast, the more you connect, all those bullies disappear
Mhm.
because people that are like that, people that are bullies are also people that are very scared of being recognized actually
Mhm.
in actuality.
Yeah.
Those are people that you never have to worry about. Um, I also find that you just have to move forward. You just have to keep doing you, keep living. That's the way to get back is to keep going. And it's also okay to still be unhappy with the way you were treated in the past. I am still unhappy with certain specific, very specific things that happened.
Mhm.
And I suspect that those specific things that still upset me, bother me, offend me, I suspect that those are part of the kind of my subconscious reason why I'm so determined to help you is because we just need to do the right thing. And we need to say, you know what? It's okay to be upset about the past. It's okay to still be offended, but you
Mhm.
have to just find ways of saying, well, I'm going to be offended and I'm going to be successful. So
Yeah.
what I'm telling you is I support that. I
Mhm.
agree with you that bullying is a huge problem in the United States.
Yes.
Um,
I think it's probably across the world, really.
well,
I just don't
well,
think we see it. We see it differently.
I don't know. We're going to get a lot of comments. I think people in some regards are a little bit more careful in other countries what they say.
Yeah. Well,
Especially
that is true.
yeah. So people are a little bit better behaved in other
Or
countries.
at least in public.
Or for sure in public, and
Mhm.
probably they behave the same as we would at home. But in public settings, people are better,
Mhm.
people in other countries are more self-aware. That's one thing that
Yeah.
I've noticed for sure. And I've traveled all over. People are
Yeah.
definitely more self-aware.
Yeah. Me too. I agree
Um,
with that.
and I've noticed that I have to become more self-aware. So I
Mhm.
guess I'm more self-aware and other people are less self-aware or less aware. But
And it's
but
just
the
part of
point,
our journey.
but
People are in different
that's,
places in their journey.
that's another thing I've had to accept is that
Mhm.
sometimes people just aren't ready for that.
Mhm.
Or if they don't hire somebody, well you have to think, well, if they don't hire you, you don't want to work for them.
Mhm.
So it's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
If somebody, students come to me and they say, "Oh, I did bad in the interview." I say, "Well, what happened?" We go over what they did right and wrong, and I say, "Well, look, if you didn't get the job, that's embarrassing, but it might be a blessing in disguise because maybe if you didn't get the job, that would have been terrible if you had."
Yep.
So you never really know until you try. I
Mhm.
think you're really on the right track of all these things. Yeah. What else do you want to know?
So for, actually, this is like completely, completely off. So for you,
Right.
what is your biggest challenge being visually impaired?
hmm hmm
What is the
Well,
hardest, what is the hardest thing for you to do?
the hardest thing to do is obviously to see, right? The over
Mhm.
obvious thing is I can't drive a car.
Mhm.
I have glaucoma, as I've said.
Mhm.
But when you're born blind your whole life, and when you deal with blindness your whole life, right? You
Mhm.
don't view being blind as a challenge, and this is a very important point.
Mhm.
Being blind is not a challenge.
Mhm.
It's just you,
Mhm.
and that's something you need to remember and need to
Mhm.
kind of internalize. There's not a challenge. There's no challenge.
Mhm.
It's this is your life.
Mhm.
You
That
know.
makes sense. That makes
Thank you.
sense.
So
So,
I'm not criticizing the fact that
no,
you think it is a challenge. I'm
no,
just saying that
I,
it's not because if you're born blind, it's it is
yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah. And it's a whole different paradigm from someone who was, who's used their sight for a long time and then didn't have it. It's a
Mm-hmm.
whole different thing. So General Pollock, another General Pollock story. She, like I said, she's a card. She went to meet with the head of a certain organization, and he was talking about how, blind, people who are newly blind just need to learn Braille, just need to do it, just need to do this, just need to do that. This is the way it is. And wasn't really in tune with the whole traumatic loss part of it.
Correct. Exactly.
So she took his cane. She said, "May I see your cane for a moment?" Took his cane. And she's looking at his cane and said, "You can't have this back ever. You can never have another cane." Guy freaked out. Absolutely freaked out at her. And she said, "That's what it feels like." She's like, it's something that you depend on for your day-to-day life. And all of a sudden you don't have it anymore. That emotional trauma is what people who are going through vision loss feel. And it really struck him pretty hard. Because it put him into something that he didn't get. So it was just a very interesting way to look at it. Whereas, being blind from birth, at least it's your normal. And people don't like switching from normal. I don't care
Right.
what it is. People don't like change.
No.
And that's human. If something changes, none of us are happy. Unless it's like a really good thing, like we hit the lottery, which isn't likely.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. No, I mean, none of that is surprising to me, Yeah, and that's the thing that's very hard for other people to understand. It's not about challenge, it's about living.
Mhm.
But that's really hard. But I sympathize with you in the
Mhm.
in the essence of I know that it's difficult for you to understand how it couldn't be a challenge. I understand how you think it
Yeah.
would be a challenge, and I respect
Yeah.
that you think it is and would be, and you should be. But it really isn't, you see. That's the essence. That's
Thank you for
the
the perspective on it, though. It's
yeah.
this perspective I've talked to a lot of people and I haven't heard that perspective.
Well, that's my
Although,
perspective. And I look, Michelle, I'm going to tell you, nobody. I'm a really weird dude. Okay,
mhm.
so nobody else has the personality that I have. As I've always said, if they were ever going to produce a movie, a film about my life, it would almost be impossible to do because it would almost be impossible for them to find an actor who could be an Aaron Richmond. I'm my own thing. Like
You have to be
nobody.
your own actor.
Well,
You have to play your own role.
well, there you go. Right? That's the idea. Right?
You're
Nobody.
unique. You're not weird. You're unique.
I'm unique.
You're
Okay. Yeah.
unique.
But then again, I like saying weird. I prefer the word weird to
Okay.
unique.
Then
I,
use
I like
weird.
I like being weird. Like, yeah, he's a weird dude. Yeah, of course he is. Yeah. I mean, you have to be a little bit weird to want to have a talk show and to want to do this as badly as I
Yeah.
do. And this is, but
Yeah.
sure. I mean, okay, you asked that question. Third question, I guess. What do you finally, let's say, what do you finally want to know?
Here's one for you. This is actually my favorite question to ask anybody. What makes your heart sing? What makes Adam Richman's heart sing? Aaron Richmond, can't even talk now.
No worries. What makes Aaron Richmond's heart sing?
Yes.
In other words, what makes me happy?
Yes.
Helping
What
people.
brings you the most joy in your life?
Helping people and knowing that I'm making the right choices for society, not for me, but for others.
That works for me because I feel you.
Well,
And
there
it's
you go.
not the first time I've heard that. It's funny how we all have a lot of things in common.
Mhm,
Even when
absolutely.
we're entirely different from different backgrounds and personalities, we're all the same though, in a lot of ways,
Absolutely.
and you're part of my tribe.
Well, I tremendously appreciate that. I tremendously from my heart to yours appreciate all of it.
Yeah.
Oh, Michelle, you did an amazing job as I knew you would. So if someone, okay, now for the contact. Now I think I'll later today, I'll go back to the email chain and see if you wrote up an episode description. If not, I'll let you know. I forget if you did.
I think I did.
Well, I think, I think you did too. I
How
just
about
don't know.
this? I can look back through my stuff, and if I haven't sent one,
Okay.
I'll send it again. So
But
it's on
I
the
think
top of your box.
That's fine. Always great. So anyway, though, okay, from here, if someone, just about you, if someone wants to get in touch with Michelle, right, how can you be reached?
There's a couple different ways. One is my email is Michelle. I'm a 2L Michelle. So I'm Michelle, B as in boy, at elevivo.com. ELEVIVO.com. So that's one way. If you're on Facebook, you can just put in Michelle Benczkowski. There's not many of us. It's a goofy picture of me with my arms out laughing. So there's that. You can always look me up on Facebook. Let's see, because I've got a public page, so you shouldn't have any trouble finding me. Let's see. My Instagram, I'm not very active on. I have a TikTok page for my band promotion, but I hate it. I absolutely detest the TikTok platform. I'm just too old for it. It just does not work for me. Let's see, other ways to get in touch with me. Those are the best ones probably to click with me. Also our YouTube channel, which is at eleVIVO, ELEVIVO. That's a great place to get with me. I run all the eleVIVO social media. I will warn you that the Facebook, Instagram pages are not built out all that far yet, just because I've been so busy with interviews and concentrating on the YouTube. And there's, me, and me. So doing the social media, because Gail does not believe in social media at all. She does not like it. She's got pages, but she just doesn't do social media.
I understand that background. Yeah. Generally speaking, that's not surprising at all. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I do it is because of the band stuff, and I really like doing that, and I have a huge community around me. And if you contact me and you want more with Classless Act, I actually run a YouTube channel for them. It's called Classless Act Highlights, and it's all live fan videos of them performing live. And it's really fun. It's really fun. And you can contact me through that too, because I run that YouTube page too. It's a blast. And when they go out on tour again, we'll get more stuff. We have more live stuff. But right now they're working on an album that they need to get their little rear ends in gear and do, because they've got it all recorded. They're in editing. It was supposed to come out in June, and I haven't seen it yet.
All right.
So I nag on them constantly about it because I want them
to hear
it.
I see.
Yeah.
All right.
So those are the best ways to get me. And you'll get me, any of the eleVIVO contact stuff is going to come to me. We run the company really lean because we want to have all the money go into programming and what needs to be done for the low vision community. We really need to run, we run very lean and just do it that way, because it's the people we serve that are important.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And Scotty Joffrey of the Blind Striker actually does the accessibility for me. He does all that testing and lets me know when I've messed up. So he's great. So if you see if you get in contact with me, if you go on the eleVIVO site, if you watch my YouTube channel, and when I get, I'm going to talk to Aaron later and get with the podcast stuff, because I need some advice with that, because I haven't even started to try, I've been thinking about it, but I haven't even started to dive in. So I'd rather start in on step 3 as opposed to step 0 or -1. So anybody, reach out to me. If you see anything wrong with anything that I do, reach out and say, this is a better way to do it. And I'll certainly be on it, because I'm sighted and I need to listen to you. It's all about listening to the low vision community and doing what needs to be done to help people who are entering the community.
Really good. Really, really, really well done. All right. Don't hang up, by the way. I want to talk to you for another 30 seconds. Hold on there.
I kept them.
But absolutely. All right. Michelle, eleVIVO. It was an absolute honor to have you on the show. Really, really fun conversation. And the audience is really going to like this. So this was a lot of fun today. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
And of course, until next time, keep podcasting, everybody. And of course, help one person today, help 1 million people tomorrow.